what is the difference between pansies and violas? Well, first of all, the similarities. They're the toughest of the cool season annuals, which means you plant them in the fall and they bloom heavily all through the fall, and then they go all the way through winter, and they, on sunny days in winter, will pop out a few blooms, and then early next spring they'll bloom again very heavily. So for color in your beds over the fall, winter, and spring, pansies and violas are the best thing to use. So what's the difference between the two? Well, pansies, which are all these plants behind me now, were actually derived from violas. So violas are kind of the parent of the pansy. Violas are also called Johnny Jump-Ups. They were called that because they used to reseed themselves like wildfire in your garden, and they'd be all over the place wherever you planted them. These newer varieties aren't quite so prolific at reseeding themselves, but violas in general have a smaller bloom than pansies. This is a viola, Peony Violet Flare, and this is the traditional pansy with yellow with a blotched face. So as you can see, the pansies just have a bigger bloom. They both get about the same size, 3 to 4 inches in the fall and 5 to 6 inches in the spring for the height of the plant. But the big difference is bloom size. But the one thing that kind of gets lost in this comparison, because if you're just wanting color, most people would choose pansies because of the bigger bloom size, is that violas have a lot more blooms per plant. So in the early spring, they'll basically completely cover everything with just blooms, and it's a really impressive sight. So while violas aren't used quite as often as pansies, in my opinion, they're a little bit better than pansies because they're better covering the whole plant with color. And they're a little more unique. But we sell more pansies than we do violas. Violas are also just a little bit tougher on the wintertime, or in the wintertime. As we get the hard freezes in winter, they're quicker to recover from a hard freeze, and then for the plant to pick up and for it to pop out some blooms. So it does better in the middle of January and February. Violas also trail a little bit, so if you're doing a mixed pot, and you should use a viola over near the edge of it, because it's not exactly trailing, but it just kind of grows out over the edge. Okay. But if what you're looking for are the big blooms that are easily noticed and a big pop of color, pansies are still the best way to go. They definitely have bigger blooms, and surprisingly in the springtime, after they've gone through winter and are well established, they get a lot bigger bloom even in the spring than they do in the fall. Pansies are very impressive. So now you know the difference between pansies and violas, the toughest of the cool season annuals. Good luck in the garden.